guys, this is Lord Chael speaking on behalf of our show sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lords and ladies. They allow you to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so you can officially call yourself a lord or a lady. Established Titles is not just about your ego. You also get to do some good. In addition to your new fancy title, Established Titles supports global charities like One Tree Planet and Trees for the Future to help with the afforestation effort. Your title pack gets you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land in a private estate in Scotland. Your certificate features a unique plot number where you can see the exact location of your land. And right now, Established Titles is holding 200 plots of land right next to mine. So come join me in the Bad Guy Inc. Kingdom. Getting this certificate even allows you to officially change your name to Lord or Lady. Put it on your credit card, put it on your plane tickets, or if you're so inclined, put it on your dating profile. Makes for a great last-minute gift, and there's even couples packs that come with adjoining plots of land. Established Titles is having a great limited-time sale. Go to establishedtitles.com/Chael to save 10% off today. Remember to use the promo code Chael, or just click on the link below. All right, so what happens with Jiri Prochazka? Now, I've got to tell you, I'm now a Prochazka fan, and I never had anything against him. I'm just sharing with you, I thought that he was a little bit dull. I like the fighting style. He's got some really interesting angles that you couldn't begin to mimic and duplicate. I don't think like his coaches are even showing him. It's like a DNA thing, the way he's built, the ranges he comes from, but he is a freaking handful. And then he's got the cool haircut and he rises to the top of the division. I mean, in all fair, USADA's bugging him. I mean, what did we just hear about Prochazka? We didn't hear anything about him getting ready to fight Glover. I mean, that was a complete dud. But we did hear that USADA visited him like 25 times in a 30-day period. I mean, you know it's bad when you're making headlines about your champion, about him having to piss into a cup. When he has a world title fight coming up, like that's a really good sign that the train is off the track here. So I appreciated Prochazka. I get total stud, but I wasn't overly interested. I got to tell you, I'm now a fan. I really am, and here's what happened with Prochazka. So Prochazka was in Vegas training when he was hurt. Whatever injury happened, but he was there in Vegas, and that location is very important because now the UFC can get their hands on you. They can get you the right treatment, they can get you the right doctors, they can really work with some specialists, but they're also going to get information back and forth. You're not going to have a situation, and I don't want to kick TJ Dillashaw, I'll just use it as an example because it's recent, you guys will remember, where a guy goes into the ring damaged, and then that damaging aspect ends the fight. Right, like TJ was able to do some of those things because he was in California, the fight's on a different continent, you could control some information. Prochazka, other side of it, information's here, but let's deal with it. So they give a good look at his shoulder. Now, you know what Prochazka said? He's got a messed up shoulder. I don't know what's wrong with him. Frankly, that's his business. We just know it's a shoulder. I don't know if that means that there's tears. I don't know if they come in and out of socket. I don't know enough, but we know that it's his shoulder. You know what Prochazka did? He tried to fight anyway. He didn't deny it. He didn't say I'm not hurt. He didn't lie to anybody. He wasn't getting ready to fill out an application and be dishonest with it. He said I'm going to fight him anyway. Okay. Okay. The guy says he's a samurai. I get lots of guys that claim they're a samurai, but believe me, from firsthand experience, everybody's a gangster until a gangster walks into the room. So Prochazka apparently is the real deal. Now the UFC takes a good look at it and they say, whoa, hold on. Hey, this shoulder's a mess. We're going to have to really work on this. I interpret that to mean that there's going to be surgery. I interpret that to mean there's going to be a long recovery time. Now, the fact that he was stripped is why I have that interpretation. If we had an injury, I don't believe you have a stripping. It's a major part to this story. If you have a champion who's hurt, who's injured, who doesn't feel well, if you have doing anything out there where he can't compete, it's quite literally why we have the creation of the interim championship. That's not what happened here. He was stripped. Now, that's a big deal. It's a huge deal. I can't get you guys to care because of the characters involved. For whatever reason, you were never on board with the Prochazka and the Glover match. You were never there. But if I was to use any other champion and I was to tell you the story, a popular that you really care, and I told you they were stripped because they were hurt, you'd go, wait a second, I've never heard of that. How long have they sat out? How many matches have they missed? How many guys have they held up? You'd be very right to ask those questions, but I would have the answer. Well, gosh, we're going on 2 years. Well, his last fight was February 2001, and you'll remember when he got carried out there. Like, I would have an answer to that. I don't have any of these things here. Now, I have to interpret that as, when they gave a look at the shoulder, this is something that can't be, this isn't overnighted. You're not just going to repair it instantly. So you got to look at the situation and say, we're going to have to take the belt off him at some point. There's no reason, with the information that we're given, to kick the can. We're at that point right now. Now, that's very tough stuff. You're dealing with a guy who worked very hard, who earned something, who was willing to go through it anyway, who said no to any challenge out there. He accepted them all, and now I believe we have an injury that's pretty severe. It's a big deal, and that's private, but I share that. Give him good thoughts. You're going to comment to him on social media if you happen to see him, and you give him good thoughts in these situations. You don't give him a hard time. Okay, so they vacated the belt. They're not going to go with Glover. They're going to bait Ankalaev, and they're going to blame Blachowicz into the spot. Now, I knew that Ankalaev and Blachowicz were going to fight. I think that you guys did too. I follow the sport very close, and so do you guys. I didn't have the foggiest idea that they were fighting that same night. That information's out there. You could go out there and Google it. But in anything else in this sport, you could Google it or you could just ask Chael. I didn't know that they were fighting that night. So when you're talking about replacing it, when you're talking about, well, maybe this fight wasn't big enough, but now we've got a much bigger fight. You think that there's politics. You think there's bureaucracy at play. That's just not what happened here. Blachowicz versus Ankalaev, this doesn't move the needle in any which direction. And the way that Blachowicz and Ankalaev got set up is actually quite fascinating. There was a four-way, I'm going to do the real fast version, but there was a four-way race for who was going to be fighting for the world championship. And they all played to some degree. They played terribly. All of them played terribly, but they did play. They did play to some degree. Ankalaev saw that the ship was going down without him. So when he goes overboard, he takes Blachowicz with him. He calls out Blachowicz. Now, Ankalaev was in the four-way race for possibly to be the guy. When he got the writing on the wall, he's not going to be the guy. That takes himself out, and Blachowicz still gets to play, right? That would be a normal situation. Ankalaev grabbed a hold of Blachowicz, took him with him. He called him out. So now if you're going to have Ankalaev fighting Blachowicz, when you know that Prochazka's the champion, just by default, not because you wanted to do it, you've got to put Glover in the world title fight. But when Glover goes to the world, these two other guys aren't. It's very interesting, right? I mean, this is a very salacious piece of psychology here. If these guys went out and they really got this story told of why they were going to fight in the first place, not the championship, let's get to that later. Why was this match made in the first place? It was a hell of a thing that Ankalaev did. When he knew that his number wasn't going to come up, instead of letting the other boys play, he grabbed Blachowicz and took him overboard with him. It's a fascinating story. It is equally as fascinating as Dustin Poirier being pissed off at Michael Chandler because Chandler didn't call him out. Okay. But it's going to be for the strap, not the interim belt. And so when you start to get this information, you're kind of getting it out of order. Now, Prochazka, God bless him, he comes out. And you know what he had to say about this? This is a terrible situation. This will impact you financially. You want to talk about legacy? I don't love that topic, but it is a real one. Whether I like it or not, it will be impactful. There's a lot of moving parts to having that belt taken off of you. I mean, it was hard enough to get the damn thing. And the way you're going to keep it and defend it, I mean, it's the hardest job and the hardest thing that you could do in life. They have it taken away from you. You want to know what he said? 2 words. You guys know what Prochazka said? That's life. That's it. That's all that he said. That's life. He made no excuses. He didn't blame a training partner. I don't know what happened to his shoulder, but anybody else I would have known. They would have said what happened and the training partner did this. I mean, you would have had this whole story. He said nothing. That's why we don't have information here. You think that my story is a little out of line or you think that I'm missing some details. It's not that I am. This is how Prochazka exited stage left. You may like that or you may not, but you can't deny that it was polite. You can't deny that it was sportsmanlike. You can't deny that he did it with tremendous honor. Prochazka was not beat. But Prochazka is no longer the champion. I don't know where I sat in terms of the world of being a Prochazka fan. I can't remember. I can't remember 24 hours ago. I don't know where I sat, but I can tell you right now, he has my respect.